and welcome back to another episode of the Let's Talk Wildlife podcast. I am your host, Courtney, and in today's episode, we are going to be discussing one of Australia's most unusual marsupials, our little numbats. So thank you so much for tuning in. Let's jump straight into it. These creatures are so magnificent and wonderful and really bizarre, but incredibly endangered. So let's get straight into it. This is our conversation on our numbats. So our little numbats are native to Australia and they are insectivorous, meaning that their diet consists of insects. And for the numbat, that means exclusively termites. They can actually consume up to 20,000 termites per day. Now, they find their food source by using that excellent sense of smell and retrieve the termites with that 10-centimeter long tongue. Now, they are also marsupials, so they have a pouch like our koalas and our kangaroos. And like our koalas, our numbats don't necessarily need to drink water to stay hydrated. They get as much as they need by consuming their food source, which, of course, we just learned are termites. Now, the numbats' closest living relatives are our quolls and our Tasmanian devils. Unfortunately, they are a critically endangered Australian species. They once inhabited quite a far range of our southern part of Australia. There is now only 1,000 or fewer left in the wild, which is so disheartening. They once lived in our Western Australia regions over into Victoria, all the way into our western part of New South Wales. They now only survive in a very small area in our southwest of Western Australia. A lot of things have impacted the decline and I guess the loss of our numbats in different states in Australia, different habitats and regions. One of those is humans. This is land clearing and habitat destruction, but also our introduced foxes and our introduced cats have played one of the major roles and still does today. Something that makes me quite upset knowing that their population is getting hunted or we're losing their populations because of introduced species is that the numbats are such small, shy creatures and they don't deserve to be hunted to extinction. They are so small, they are roughly about 40 centimeters in length. Our males are about 2 times larger than our females, and they on average weigh around 500 to 600 grams. So they definitely are one of the smaller animals that we have discussed on the podcast. Now, they are very easily recognizable. They, of course, live down in our southwest of Western Australia in very small pockets. They have that small pointed head, those very cute little ears that stay upright. They have 4 legs with quite long claws for digging to find termites and to dig through soil. They have that long bushy tail and they range from a brown to a reddish with, of course, those black and white bandings on their back down to their rump. And they also have those extremely distinct black stripes across their eyes as well. You can find our little numbats in woodlands in Western Australia. You may tend to find them resting or sleeping or hiding from potential predators in fallen hollow logs. Of course, these logs don't just protect them from ground predators, but also from birds. Birds love to prey on numbats, especially baby numbats. So these fallen hollow trees give them a source of safety. Now, you don't typically find our numbats living in wet or very cold climates or environments. This is because termites don't live in these environments. So you're not going to find numbats there when numbats generally only feed on our termites. Now, as we mentioned, their populations have now only been restricted to southwest Western Australia, and we have 2 populations that remain. One of them live in our Dryanda woodlands in Western Australia, and we also have one in a nature reserve near Manjimup, also in Western Australia. We do have a few fenced, predator-free zones across our southern part of Australia for our numbats. This starts in Western Australia, into Victoria, and over back into New South Wales. These areas are extremely vital for the protection of our numbats and to help increase their populations. We spoke about fenced areas and predator-free zones in our bilby episode, so they are very necessary, and I'm so thankful that they exist. There is one organisation that has built, and that is still protecting and still building predator-free zones for our numbats. And that organisation is the Australian Wildlife Conservancy. They do an absolute incredible job at protecting not just our numbats, but other native Australian wildlife that has been hunted by humans, that still are hunted by humans or have habitat loss from humans. Of course, they protect them from introduced species as well. I believe I have mentioned this organisation on different episodes, and that is because they are just so lovely and they are absolutely great at what they do in protecting our numbats. Now, the numbat isn't just difficult to encounter in the wild because there are fewer than 1,000, of course. This plays a major role, but they are incredibly solitary animals. They tend to only come together when mating, and our male numbats are quite territorial. They will fight to protect their food, they will fight to protect their home ranges, and one numbat's home range can range anywhere from 20 to 50 hectares. That is per numbat. So if you are out exploring in regions where our numbat may inhabit, seeing one numbat is extremely rare. But it's also a good thing because then humans can't hurt or harm our numbats. So we are protecting them that way as well. But they are very rare to encounter in the wild. They have a quite slow reproduction rate as well, and they have a very short life expectancy. So this doesn't help their populations either. They tend to live up to about 5 years in the wild, and of course may live a little bit longer in captivity with nutrients and supplements and all that type of stuff. And of course, being predator free, they also have a higher chance of living longer in our wildlife sanctuaries or our zoos. Now, the males are sexually mature at about 2 years of age, and the male numbat actually has sternal glands on their chest area, which exudes a very oily substance, which some have said is very pungent, but this is really helpful for our male numbats if they are rubbing this along surfaces like rocks and logs and trees. This smell and substance will give female numbat the message that he is looking for a mate and he is ready to mate. So it does have a very important role. And once our male and female numbats find a mate, the female typically gives birth to about 4 young in our summer months, so January and February here in Australia. And the numbat, fascinatingly enough, has one of the shortest gestation periods of any mammal. They only have a gestation period of 14 days, which is remarkable and interesting and very fascinating. But of course, the numbat being a marsupial, after the 14 days, she will give birth to an undeveloped joey, which will then develop in her pouch. We touched on human activity playing a role and a part in the population's rapid decrease. Of course, introduced species like the fox and the cat, which we are protecting our numbats from in these predator-free zones, which isn't harming or hurting any other animal in the process. It's just protecting our numbats. Of course, humans, which are clearing land and trees for farming, for mining, for, of course, houses. And something very worrying about this is our numbats rely on fallen hollow logs and trees for shelter, for safety, for a place to rest during the day, to stay out of the sight of predators or birds above. So by taking away these trees and clearing them, we are giving them no refuge site. And also, even more worrying, is now termites will die out. This will leave our numbats with no food source. So our 1,000 numbats that are left in the wild are now going to reduce even more because now they don't have a food source. They may evolve, but as we know, evolution doesn't happen overnight. It takes hundreds of millions of years. And by the time that happens, our numbats will have gone extinct. Another really important reason as to why we must protect our numbats is, this may be surprising to some, but the numbat is actually Western Australia's faunal state emblem. So it's very vital that we are protecting one of our state's faunal emblems. Like, this animal means so much to this state, and not just that, but to the whole of Australia and Australians. So we must be doing all we can. We must be supporting them and researching organisations, having conversations about our numbats. If you have the opportunity to head over to our southwestern parts of Western Australia where they inhabit, you may want to take a couple of days to go explore in our forests and our nature reserves, and you may not come across one of our numbats, as we know it's quite hard, quite difficult, but you will come across a whole bunch of reptiles, snakes, lizards, other marsupials, other mammals. And I know every single time that I've been on holiday, whether that's here in Australia or overseas, what makes my trip the best and the ones that stand out the most, this may be just because I love wildlife, but is when I get to encounter wildlife. When I'm not even there for that reason. I know I was up in Airlie Beach and it was just for my birthday, just for a holiday. And I was driving on the road, and again, I wasn't there to see wildlife. It was really just to relax and take some time off and celebrate my birthday. And right there across the road, a dingo. I got to see eagles and sea turtles while I'm just standing on a cliff. So this really makes my holidays. So if you don't get to encounter one animal that you have packed up your bags and you're out hiking in the woods to find, you are guaranteed and more than likely going to encounter a whole range of different really fascinating, cool wildlife. But there are a few organizations that you may want to support or perhaps even work with to support and protect our little numbats. I know FAME, F-A-M-E, is partnered with the Australian government on a 2-year program. This is centered on protecting Western Australia's habitats. Now, this isn't just protecting our numbats' habitats and their home. In doing so, you are protecting a whole bunch of wildlife, from our possums to our foals. And I also do believe FAME are training dogs to help find and locate feral cats. This isn't to harm or to kill our feral cats or cats if they're domestic. This is just to help let researchers and people know that where our cats inhabit and our feral cats, there is a possibility that our numbats may be living in that area too. So this will help learn about the numbats distribution a little bit better, and maybe even their populations. There may be more, there may be less than what has been discovered and recorded. WWF Australia, I always mention WWF Australia, but I think they are excellent, and they are definitely one of the easier organizations to research, and I do try and make this as easy as possible, and I try to break down as much information for you guys as possible, because I know a few of you are here just to learn and you are beginning to love wildlife. So I do try to make it as simple as possible, because I know when I'm learning something, I really don't particularly like when they're using all these scientific terms, and I'm like, okay, well, I have no idea, and then I have to do my own research on the side. But I know a few of you are also experts and user professionals already in this region, so you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But WWF Australia is they need funding to be able to place sensor cameras throughout the numbats' habitats to learn more about the numbat, from their diet to, of course, as we mentioned, their home ranges, to their population as well. And of course, our Australian Wildlife Conservancy that has those fenced sanctuaries down in our southern part of Australia. You may want to check out that organisation. They are doing incredible things for all of our native species and also our planet. They are protecting wilderness areas, which is the most important, because it's all well and good to be protecting our species, but if we're not protecting their homes, they're going to unfortunately die off and go extinct anyway because of humans destroying their habitats. So for our species to thrive, they need their homes. If you do encounter a numbat in the wild, you may want to let someone know, like a wildlife organization, let them know, perhaps write down where you've seen it, the location, so we can know a little bit more about the distribution. And also, if it is spotted in an area where there is a high number of introduced species like our fox or our feral cats, we can protect that numbat. So it's really important to be reporting a numbat if you see it or if you encounter one. Of course, respect their space, but I trust you guys. I know you guys are intelligent human beings and you know exactly how to handle and encounter wildlife when you are. It is quite difficult to encounter a numbat in the wild, and if you don't live in Australia or Western Australia, it may be hard for you to go out in the wild and spot one. So you may want to head to your local zoo or local wildlife sanctuary to support your local wildlife sanctuary and to learn more about the numbat and just see how cute and interesting they are in person. But I am yet to see a numbat. I am heading over to Western Australia in the next couple of months, so I will have to definitely go on a little hike to see what I can find. But if you see a numbat, let me know, because that is really cool. But thank you so much for always being respectful to our wildlife, and thank you so much as well for always being very, very kind to me and very kind to the podcast. I hope you learn a little thing about our numbats and how precious and important they are. But that is all for this episode. I am very thankful for you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will be seeing you this time next week, of course. Bye for now.